Episode 12, Neon Castle. Night had fallen upon the Sand Kingdom, plunging it into a cold icy chill. A traveler going about his way through the desert would become horrified to find his cool clothing become useless and his vision plunged into darkness in the middle of the endless sea of sand. In the past, that unprepared traveler would have been as good as dead. Nowadays, though, his story would be different. Shivering, stumbling, he would mount the top of a sand dune, and be greeted by the brilliant, rainbow-colored gaze of the sprawling city before him. Neon City was a city unlike any other in the Sand Kingdom, a product of the Koopa Empire's wealth. It was built in the middle of the desert, which made travel to it difficult except for by air. Its inhabitants called it the City of Lights, for its colorful neon signs shone 24/7, projecting strange colors into the air and ensuring that the nightlife would never, ever end. Jam-packed with theaters, resorts, casinos, and bars, Neon City's inhabitants never lacked entertainment. It was like a sparkling jewel in the middle of a desert. A jewel that many called the Koopa Empire's center of vice. Towering above every five-star hotel and every light-covered gambling hall was the spiked dome of Neon Castle, its pink and purple lights making it stand out against the black sky. It was inside of this castle that the plan to unravel the empire first began. Prince Roy Koopa sat upon his jewel-encrusted throne, looking out over his dimly lit throne hall. Dark pink lights shone from the pillars, allowing his to watch his courtesans who were sitting at the various tables that filled the room, drinking from massive mugs routinely refilled by the boo waiters who floated in and out of the walls. They were his military officers, his sector's most profitable businessmen, and even Neon City's kingpins of crime, the kind of people who loved to flock to those with power so that they could secure some of it for themselves. Roy gazed at them lazily, the purple light reflecting off his dark shades as he listened to the slow jazz which was being performed live in a corner of the room. He was a huge Koopa even by royalty standards, and there were many who claimed his was even taller and more muscular than the emperor himself. Roy clicked his claws on the throne's armrest in impatience. Right now, he would have liked nothing more than to be relaxing in his lava-heated hot tub. Unfortunately, he had business to attend to. Business which, if everything worked out, would make him even more powerful than he already was. At the end of the hallway, Roy glimpsed a figure emerging. He straightened himself on his throne and grinned. Now things were about to get serious. The figure walking down the aisle between the tables with the drinking Koopas was a muscular sledge bro, clad in a black outfit instead of a green one. He was General Crucial, his right-hand man who had been given command over the invasion of Sector 2. He better have good news, Roy thought to himself as Crucial approached the throne platform and knelt. Because if he doesn't, I'll squash him like a Goomba and feed him to the chain chomps. Prince Roy, said Crucial in a reverent voice. I am pleased to report that the invasion of Sector 2 was a success. Roy leaned back on his throne and laughed aloud, his voice echoing through the chamber. Of course it was, he exclaimed, to no one in particular. Now things were really going to start picking up for him, he thought as he continued to laugh. If only he could have seen the look on his weakling little brother Morton's face when he heard that his kingdom was invaded. So much for being the strongman of the Koopalings. Morton had probably been hoping he'd never have to fight again, now that the Koopas were in control of the world. If only he had known how wrong that would be. Roy stopped laughing and grinned, baring his pointed teeth. They should have known a Koopa like him wouldn't be satisfied with just a part of the world. So what's the status? He asked, leaning down to look at Crucial. How much have we taken over? About 1/4 of Sarasa land already, Crucial replied, sounding a bit nervous. 1/4? Roy exclaimed, banging the armrest of his throne. Crucial, I'm not paying you to be a wimp. You're my top general. You should have at least destroyed Morton's castle by now. Well,
It has only been 1 day?
Crucial said defensively.
But don't worry, Prince Roy. While Morton's army has begun putting into place defensive measures, we have already made plans to counter them. Furthermore, plans for the invasion of the other territories of Sector 2, such as the Sprixie Kingdom, have been made and will be put in place by tomorrow. I see.
Roy grumbled, staring down at Crucial and glaring at him from behind his sunglasses. Morton, despite his power, had never really liked fighting that much. His sector's military was nothing compared to that of Sector 4, which Roy controlled. Failure to defeat him quickly would make him look bad in front of Ludwig and Larry. Roy growled, scraping his claws against the throne's golden armrest. Ludwig had promised him a guaranteed victory, but he wasn't going to rely on Ludwig's guarantee. He could tell that his two, more intelligent brothers looked down on him, Ludwig in particular, so he wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of helping him.
Crucial!
Roy exclaimed, causing the sledge bro to snap to attention.
Yes, Prince Roy. When's the date of my meeting with Larry?
He growled.
I want it over with as soon as possible. General Coops will be here any minute to discuss it, my lord.
Crucial replied.
Humph.
Roy nodded.
You can go now. Get back to work.
As Crucial left, Roy listened to the excited gossip of his underlings, as he mused darkly about his meeting with Larry. He wasn't looking forward to it at all.
General Coops. The ace of Koopa High Command is coming here,
said one tuxedo-clad Koopa in shock.
The alliance between Prince Roy and Prince Larry is thicker than I thought,
an elderly hammer bro said, with a sip of sparkling green shell wine.
Have you heard the rumors about Coops?
A Paracoopa asked, his wings fluttering with excitement as he gossiped with the people at his table.
Do you really think he ever fought Emperor Bowser in his youth? Don't be ridiculous, Paracaro.
A Goomba with a goatee who was sitting at the same table scoffed.
If he really was one of Mario's allies, how do you think he managed to move up the ranks so fast?
The massive set of doors at the end of the hall creaked open, and a single Koopa troop stepped in. While it was difficult to see due to his dark glasses and the already dark lighting in the room, Roy could tell that General Coops was anything but intimidating. There was nothing about the way he carried himself that invoked awe or fear, and he didn't seem to possess anything that made him different from a typical green-shelled Koopa Troopa. The nobles appeared to be surprised, as well.
Look at him!
A Koopa troll exclaimed.
He looks scared out of his wits. Is he really the one in line to become the next Grand General? Fought with Emperor Bowser? Ha!
A Bob-omb laughed.
He could barely fight my own son.
Coops did not seem too affected by the people's criticisms of him, although he did nothing to silence them. He gave a shy smile at a hammer bro who had previously been comparing him to a startled rabbit. Now that he was closer, Roy could see him more. He was dressed in a light blue military jacket and had an ordinary bandage on the top of his nose.
Why in the world did Larry choose this guy as his second-in-command?
Roy scoffed, giving an unpleasant grin as Coops bowed before him.
I could crush him in a second.
Coops glanced up at Roy. He did not kneel, which under most circumstances would have caused him to be promptly smashed by one of the prince's massive fists, especially since he was so weak-looking. That was what Roy certainly felt like doing, although, with difficulty, he restrained himself. The only way he was able to go against his siblings was because of his alliance with Ludwig and Larry. If he broke that, it would be the rest of the world against him, and as much as he hated to admit it, he'd probably lose.
Hey, Prince Roy.
Coops stammered in a nervous voice.
Yeah, that's my name.
Roy grunted, leaning back on his throne.
So, what's Larry's deal? When's this meeting happening? 3 days.
Koopa replied, holding up 3 of his fingers.
Larry's. Well, he's a bit busy. Espionage stuff is a lot of work, you know. Don't worry. He'll try to come as soon as possible. And won't it be a joy when he does?
Roy replied dryly.
Hey, taking over the world isn't the kind of thing you can do in a day.
Koops offered helpfully.
It's always nice to have help. Yeah, whatever, pipsqueak.
Roy replied, waving his hand in dismissal.
Go back to Sector 1, where people actually care about you.
Koops was visibly offended, but said nothing.
Yeah, see ya.
He replied, waving passively as he walked back down the hall.
Such disrespect.
An elegantly dressed Koopa woman said in disgust, shaking her head. Roy very much agreed with her, although he was glad Koops at least had the decency to keep it short. He rose from his throne and walked down the steps from his royal platform, between the tables full of the city's wealthiest and more powerful. He nodded in appreciation as they all watched him with respect, awe, and fear as he walked past them. As ruler of Neon City and of Sector 4, he had everything. But not even everything was enough to satisfy Roy Koopa.